Afternoon. I promise I won't be that painful on y'all. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. Yeah, who is? Who dat? Ah, well, I'm so sorry. But yeah, actually, some of the ladies from the women's am were staying on my street. It was very cool, and I saw one of them at the airport. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. But what I was gonna talk about is we had a little incident about 7 months ago. We had a hurricane come through, which actually on the golf course I play took down 4,500 trees. Is Brian here from the last talk? Where are you at? Let me tell you what your restaurant chain did. That was awesome. So there was a lady, okay, we were without power and water. And there was a lady on my street who's about 72, not married, lives by herself. And about on day 2 or 3, I was walking down the street and she was crying on the curb. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, I just need food to put in my belly. Walmart wasn't open, nothing was open. So I went back to my house and I got everything from my cupboard, which is always just bread, peanut butter, bourbon, and Pop-Tarts. And I gave it all to her because I figured I'd go. I had to speak in a couple of days. Figured I'd go, just on a diet for a couple of days. And so I did, and I was starving. And I made my way up to the Atlanta airport and I went to Popeyes. And I ordered the number 5, which in the Atlanta airport is $15.62. You know, Anthony Bourdain, one of his favorite restaurants was Popeyes on Concourse B, I think. But anyway, so I ordered that, and I don't know what it was, but the lady looked at me. There's a lady that's probably about 75, 80 that works at that Popeyes. And she took one look at me and just kind of stared at me, and she had rung me up and zeroed me out and gave me my food for free. And that was instant karma because I'd given somebody like basically all my food 2 days before, and then I go to Popeyes and they just give me my stuff. I thought that was awesome, and I can't stop. Everybody applaud. I couldn't stop telling people about it. I mean, I just think it was wonderful. Plus, I love Popeyes. Don't even get me started. Anyway, Augusta National Golf Course getting rained on right now. This is Mike and I doing I Want to Be Sedated a few years ago. The reason I put that up there is Mike always lets me, he gives me something to research and talk about, and then he lets me freestyle it. So that's what I'm going to do. The first half of the speech, I want to talk about GLP-1s. Second half of the speech, I'm going to talk about some stuff that's probably a little bit unexpected. So let me start with the GLP-1. How many of y'all are Johnny Quest fans? I'm so old. All right. That's a Gila monster. All right, that's a Gila monster. And the way they discovered the peptide from the GLP-1s is they noticed that Gila monsters only ate like 2 or 3 times a year, and they were trying to figure it out. And so they examined its saliva, and it turned out that it had something to do with sugar, blah blah blah. But I always thought it was cool that this whole mess was due to, Gila monsters. I thought that was just kind of cool. So when they first started giving it to people, these are the states. 5 years ago, I did a Google Trends. Well, I didn't do the Google Trends 5 years ago. I did it the other night. But anyway, I did Google Trends, and these were the states that the GLPs started in. And I don't want to cast dispersions on those states, but those states are all known for high incidences of needing dialysis drugs, or they're maybe perhaps overweight. And so that's who 5 years ago was going after GLP-1 drugs. But if you do it over the past 6 months, it changed to these states: Connecticut, West Virginia, Louisiana, Nevada, Arkansas. And those are the cities on the side that are the ones that have been Googling the most about GLP-1, because they found out that you can lose weight on it an average of 17 to 14 pounds. And Mike asked me to talk to y'all about what the potential effect of that would be. This slide, what I was trying to figure out, so I looked up the states that were asking about it the most, and then it also gave me the questions that were asked about it the most in those states. And for some reason, what is Ozempic but is really big in Idaho. Anybody wants to explain that to me? I'm open. I can listen to it, but I have no idea, and I don't even know what Ozempic butt is, and I was not going to Google it, but apparently it's a thing. But all of a sudden, last year, starting in June, there are all these headlines, these doom and gloom headlines. Ozempic's going to kill the restaurant industry. Oh, Lord, everything's going to, go to hell in a handbasket. And with all the press attention it got, you would think that it's so. And these are just some of the articles that came out. And, there's that person injecting themselves. Some people do it once a day. Isn't that weird? And people pushing away the meals. And so I thought what I'd do is like actually go into the data. This is for Wegovy and Ozempic. These are over the last 5 years. This is the interest from Google searches to each of them. And you'll see Ozempic kind of is waning since about June. Well, that first spike really is about a year and a half ago. That second spike is between June and October. But you'll notice things are sort of settling down a little bit, which I find interesting because everybody says it's going to like do crazy things. Happily, in February, how many of y'all read this study? Please say nobody. That'd be awesome. Good. Um, Somebody did a study based on a whole lot of data about how GLP-1 medication adoption is changing consumer food demand. And so that's like, I figure, a really great place to start. GLP-1 users reduce their spending at fast food chains, coffee shops, and limited service restaurants by 8.6% within 6 months of adoption. Lower income households show a 14% decrease in food away from home, while higher income restaurants maintain more stable restaurant spending with only 7.4%. Evening dining shows the largest decline, which I guess in a way sort of makes sense a little bit. GLP-1 usage in the United States increased uh, in a year from 5.5 to 8.3% in July 2024 and continues to rise, but not at the rate it has been rising, which I find interesting. Food expenditures revert to pre-adoption level when they go off the drug. And people are going off the drug with frequency for a variety of reasons and go back to their old patterns. Savory snacks get walloped with an 11% decline um, after GLP-1 adoption. Bakery items get walloped, which you would assume. Households with at least one GLP user reduce their grocery spending approximately 5.5% within 6 months of adoption. So it does have an effect. It does have a measurable effect. But does it have a measurable lasting effect? Higher income households reduce grocery spending by a lot, which I found interesting, which is double the 4.2% decline seen in lower income households, which may just be because they buy more expensive stuff. I don't know. But if you put those in graphical terms, because graphs is easier to read than all those, those letters. GLP, you can see in October 2023 is 5.5, and it spiked up in January 2024, but it's kind of leveling out. It's projected to reach 10% at the end of 2025, but I kind of would be surprised if it actually did. This is the percent impact on restaurant spending by mealtime. You see the impact is greatest at dinner time. That's the green. And least in the afternoon spending, I suppose. Yeah, afternoon spending. Food category and income. Everything on the left-hand side, by the way, is negative. Fresh produce was the only thing amongst GLP users that actually rose, that people bought more of. GLP impact on food spending. Remember, these are negative numbers. It's highest in low-income restaurants, then, well, restaurants overall, then high income, then grocery overall. So it's having a measurable effect, but will it continue to have a measurable effect? Novo Nordisk is the company that has, they've got 60% of the share, and Eli Lilly has another 34% of the share. But what I thought was kind of interesting was if you look at the stock market, don't look at it today, by the way, whatever you do, it's but actually the price is the same, it's 66. But if you look at June of 2024, Novo Nordisk was 148. Today it's 66. That's down $281 billion. Why? If their premier product is GLP-1 drugs, which are assumed to be a $50 billion a year drug, why is their stock down 5 times 50 billion? I find that to be really interesting, and I haven't really figured it out yet. That green line, by the way, uh, I learned a long time ago. That's the 200-day moving average. Nothing good ever happens below the 200-day moving average. So I'm not expecting much good to happen to Novo Nordisk in the near time future. So there's the GLP receptor market, and it's expected to grow, but I'm not exactly sure it's going to. Demand remains high. Insurers may pick it up for some of them once they decide on whether or not it's actually completely, totally safe. There's going to be some new entrants that sort of do the same thing. Nothing's really come up. There's been some anecdotal stuff about things that happen that maybe aren't awesome. Um, Google Tracy Lawrence Knicks game if you want to see that. Um, but what I did was I took I did a basically a regression analysis on Google searches on these different items. And I ranked them on the impact, the probable impact it was going to have on y'all's industry. Number one, labor cost and staffing shortages. Second one is supply chain disruptions. Third is inflation. Fourth is consumer preferences and technology. Fifth is integration and digital competition. The GLP-1s didn't come in until number 6. So everybody's been focusing, saying this is going to be the thing that really gets us. I'm not so sure. And then you have regulatory and compliance, economic uncertainty, sustainability, and brand relevance. So is it going to have an effect? Yes, but I don't think it's going to have the doomsday effect that people have predicted. And I don't think it's something you really need to be, not going to tell you how to run your business, but I'm not sure it needs to be the number one item that you focus on in your strategic planning. All right. Any questions on that, by the way? You can ask me. I don't mind. I won't know the answer, but you can ask it. All right, AI. I wanted to talk a little bit about AI in sort of a different way. This is a couple of the sessions you're going to see tomorrow. And I wanted to kind of delve into some of those. This is the part where Mike lets me freestyle. Um, the first one is creating a restaurant in 1 hour, and the second one is finding sites and innovating. I wanted to go through some ways that that AI is probably going to help you. I have been studying AI. I am, well, it says I'm 62. I'm actually 63 as of last week, but I started messing around with AI when I was 24 years old. So I've been doing it a long time, and nothing happened for 36 years. And then about November 13th, 2023, everything happened. And everything went crazy. And it just more than made up for all the inaction that had been going on before. And people just kind of went nuts for it. Here's a chart that I find interesting. The first red dot is the day that ChatGPT was released to the public. And if you'll notice, there's a profound bull market that follows that until that second red dot, which was when DeepSeek was released. And I think DeepSeek is, are y'all familiar with Black Swan theory, where something just comes out and changes everything? DeepSeek came out and changed everything because you can do AI processing for approximately 1/20th the cost that you can do it with ChatGPT, and that scales. That's a big thing, and that's why a lot of tech stocks have just been completely crashing because this thing that came out of nowhere, a paper that just came out of nowhere, changed everything. And that's how fast AI is changing things. It's the speed, it's the velocity of what AI is changing that's really super fascinating to me. How many of y'all own a private jet? Anybody? Where's Michelle? I thought you had one. You don't have one? Oh, I thought you told me you did. Oh, never mind. Um, People that have them, some of whom live in Augusta, Georgia and belong to that golf club, call them time machines. Because if you can go from Augusta to Brunswick to Orlando to Alabama, then get back to Augusta at night, that's a time machine. You've saved a bunch of time. Well, that's what AI is. AI is a time machine. There's a brilliant book. How many of y'all have read this book, Competing Against Time? Sometimes my speeches are like book club. And I think y'all might want to read this because today in innovation, what you're really competing against, it's your competitors, but you're also competing against time. I think people need to refocus attention on time, getting the most value for the amount of time you're able to put into things, according to George Stalk, who wrote this book, is a new pattern for corporate success. This book is about 20 years old, and if it tells you anything, it's Tim Cook's favorite book. All right, you've never heard of it, but it's a big deal book. And as you compress time, productivity increases, prices can be increased, risks are reduced, and market share is increased. Well, the best thing in the whole wide world at compressing time that you can access now for $20 is AI. And I'll give you an example. When I made that last slide, that little black part in the top, I screenshotted that, and then I told AI, please pull this text from the image and give it back to me, and it gave it back to me in no time flat. If I'd sat there and retyped that at my typing speed, that would have taken me 2 or 3 minutes. It took me like 15 seconds. Okay, that's compressing time. It's essentially a time machine. I said to the AI, draw me a picture of a Taco Bell, and in the drive-through lanes underneath the restaurants, there's a car wash. So you get your, you laugh, just wait. It's gonna happen. Buc-ee's will probably be the one that does it. They've done everything else. It's, I'm just saying it's going to happen. But anyway, I said, draw me a picture of that. And it drew me that picture in 30 seconds, which is about how long it took me to type the thing. Then I asked it, if 700 cars passed through that drive-through every day, if I did water reclamation, how much water would I use in a year? And it said 3,832,000 gallons a year. All right, if you sat around and decided to make that your project for the day and figure all that kind of stuff out, that would take you a whole day. That took me 2 minutes max to do. And that's why I say it's compressing time. AI is a time machine, and I don't think people have really caught on to it yet. Your Roomba, how many of y'all have a Roomba? Okay, let's say your Roomba is $500. Let's say your time is worth $100 an hour. Let's say twice a week you vacuum your house. I'm going to do this math in my head. So if a Roomba saves you that time twice a week, then I think it earns $100 a week. Let's say it costs $500. Its payback period is $500 because it saved you $500 in time. And you can scale that looking at other things. That's just like a goofy Roomba. It compounds time, AI does. It compounds time and it helps you get started. If I wanted to see what a Taco Bell looked like with a car wash in it, it got me started and it did a pretty decent job at the very beginning. Other ways it's going to help y'all, I'm just going to speed through this. You're going to hear a little about this tomorrow, is it helps map demographic trends quickly and in different places. If y'all noticed, all my slides basically are Palm Beach based. You know, that slide a year ago, if I'd given it to a graphic designer, you know, $7,500 in 2 months, right? And I just kind of did it instantly. And then if you drill down into Palm Beach and you're looking where to put a restaurant, you can use different data to figure that out. Then you decide to build it. I know some of y'all are using AI in the planning process. And let's say we have this spot that's this tall, that's this much room next to a hotel. Build us something appropriate and small. What it does is it gives you a really quick way to spec something out rather than spending time thinking about it. And you can give 4 or 5 choices and go, okay, let's go with this one. It is a time machine. If you want to build a fitting Taco Bell for Palm Beach, I believe this might be the one. I would go to that. I would totally go to that. It can be used on site in different ways. It can figure out how to cut drywall or board to minimize waste, given the parameters that it has. Somebody touched on it earlier. I can't remember. It was, the lady from White Castle. Talked about AI-driven traffic prediction. That's important, as is, this is a misplaced slide, but optimizing steel shipments, optimizing the stuff that needs to get to your site, optimizing where you should put seats in a restaurant, using AI, having a AR, an augmented reality menu in the glass of the restaurant where you're at, doing dumb, cool things like that, which couldn't be done before, but are kind of cool if you sort of think about it, and adjusting the menus day by day based on the weather, the number of customers there, traffic, the people with loyalty cards there, like them. If they're having loyalty cards, like earlier, the lady from, I forgot her company again, White Castle, Whitey Cassell's. I was wondering if when you drove up to, what was the name of her AI at the drive-through? If when you drove up to Julia, if it could take Bluetooth information from your loyalty cards and read it right then. That would be very cool if it could do that. She did talk about the voice. I didn't realize people were that far along on that. But, it tells you your order's already here, and looks at traffic patterns, but also I thought this was kind of interesting. It can detect stress in the voice of the people that are ordering, which in certain circumstances might be really, really, really helpful. Y'all probably know that better than I do. Plus, robots can do things in the back room to alleviate people from tasks they would ordinarily do. And that's the last thing I want to talk about is robots, is AI plus robots. This is the big thing I really wanted to put across to y'all. This is the key sentence of my talk, actually. Robotics is a systems engineering problem, with the end goal being a machine that can produce one or more human unit of work at equal or lower cost than that of a human. A Roomba can't really do that right now, but others will be able to. There's 3 types of robots that are going to scale incredibly in the next 5 years. One is autonomous cars, because we all need to go somewhere and it will deliver us food. The other is drones, because the sky is the limit and it will deliver us food. And the other is humanoid robots, because the world is really built for us, and that's a humanoid caddy, which I can tell you, I'm from Augusta, those are already in the works. They'll walk beside you and give you your yardages and hand you your clubs. This is already happening, all right? It's going to happen. And it's these humanoid robots, to me, are where things get super, super interesting, because everything we work with, our stove, our tool, everything is designed around a human form factor, right? Since the dawn of man, it's designed by a human form factor. So let's run the numbers on a humanoid robot in terms of what they'll cost in about a year, and I believe this to be true. I believe you can get a robot that could work in a restaurant or on a construction site for about $30,000. You lease it, you get a loan for it for 3 years. Let's say interest rate is 4%, although it's going to probably be higher. So your monthly payment is $884, all right, for your robot. All right, if your monthly payment is $884 over 36 months, your total cost is $31,000. So it costs you $31,000 over 3 years. Let's say you got 18 hours of work out of that guy just because you're working him really hard, and the rest of the day he's recharging. All right, and there's 365 days a year, and let's say he's there in the middle of the night just cleaning up, right? Things like that. You take his total hours during those 3 years, which is 19,710, and so that's what it works over 3 years. And it turns out that its equivalent wage is $1.62 an hour. That's what robot wages are going to wind up being, $1.62 an hour, which introduces a really interesting question in terms of the labor force. And I believe they're probably going to make in the construction of restaurants, I think they're going to probably make their play there before too much inside the restaurants, but they are coming. The ones that Elon is building, I think he's trying to build 5 million over the next 3 or 4 years. Unitree is building tons of them. We're about to enter a robot revolution, and that sounds crazy, but 8 years ago, I stood right here and said we were about to enter an AI revolution, and people really, they actually laughed in the audience. It's on YouTube. You can see it. It's kind of bizarre. I think robotics plus AI, I think the robotics part is actually going to be bigger than the AI because that's going to drive costs down so far. And if you if you just go to that bottom line and look at the annual labor cost at a fast food restaurant, and I'm just mocking this up, that's $700,000 a year. But a robot, one of those robots, if it works 18 hours, can essentially do the work of two people. Now, my math may be a little bit off on here, but what I'm saying is you're saving money, and you're doing it during a time period where it's starting to do simple tasks. It's not doing the real complex stuff yet. It's doing Flippy type stuff, right? It's doing, I was so glad that she talked about Flippy because I find it to be very interesting. The thing that Flippy doesn't do is Flippy doesn't learn from itself. It does not have, as far as I know, generative AI built into it. When it starts learning from itself, that's when things get interesting. These are robots that deliver food to people's table. They're being used in restaurants right now. This is a dude, but he's supposed to be a robot, but I couldn't get AI to draw that, who wanders around a construction site making sure everything's up to spec. That's going to be commonplace. You know, drawing on a concrete floor. This is actually an HP piece of equipment that draws where your print points are when you're constructing things. Right now, what does exist in Japan, or I'm sorry, in China, is a restaurant where the chefs and the waiters are robots. It's just a test right now, but what they're essentially doing is everything's in a pouch, right? That's where it starts. And then the robot cuts the pouch, and then the meals are set on the tray to coordinate with the serving robot, and then they're served, and the drinks are prepared by someone else. This is not completely rolled out yet, but so far it's kind of working. And it's going to get bigger and bigger as robots get more tactile and smart and learning from each other. That actually is one of the robots that does that. He's not the most handsome fella in the entire world, but this is going on right now. And that's what's sort of crazy. People think this is not going on right now. Yeah, it's going on right now, but you just don't hear a lot about it, possibly because it's China. I can't pronounce it. Does anybody know how to pronounce the name of this restaurant? Okay, it's a hot pot restaurant, and they're using robots in the kitchen and robots to deliver. Not everywhere yet, but they have them in, my understanding, is in hundreds of restaurants so far. They're trying them out. What's going on is things are changing super fast. This is a guy bringing home his groceries to two restaurants. Let's say he's rich. Let's say the dudes cost him $30,000 each. They take his groceries and they sort of talk to each other, and they put it in the right place in the fridge, or another one puts it somewhere else. They're communicating with each other, but they're also learning from the task day by day, given past things they've learned from the guy that owns them. And this is going on in not restaurants, in factories in China right now, where essentially the factories, have y'all heard about dark factories? They don't even turn the lights on at night because they don't need to, because there's no people in there. It's just robots doing all the work, which I find completely super fascinating. It's Xiaomi's lights out factory works around the clock, producing one smartphone per second with 0 humans employed. All right, that's kind of strong. And like I said, they just cut the lights out because why keep them on? And where things really get weird, what I said 8 or 9 years ago here that freaked people out was I said that in 10 years, you're going to have code writing code. And that's what people laughed at me about. Well, in about 3 years, you're going to have robots designing and building robots autonomously, all by themselves. They'll know the optimal design for the robot, and they'll go ahead and build it. And one can get built. They'll hope, well, they say that one robot will get built every 1 minute. What we're about to see, I hate to say the word exponential, but the amount of robots we're about to see coming online, doing things we didn't expect, is going to be wild. A robot, one of those humanoid robots, actually just ran a half marathon in China. Did y'all hear about that? He got up there and just competed with everybody and just ran the daggum thing. Now, and people really didn't look at it much at all. It's like, well, there's a robot running against us. I hope we beat him. And so these are my yeah, seriously. So these are my sort of 7 money slides that I'll finish with. The problem is designing both a system of hardware, the robot, with many integrated individual parts integrated with the software layer, which is the AI. So getting the robots as good as you can get, getting the AI as good as you can get, where the software layer understands how to move and plan with the hardware. In other words, it's really not talking to humans. It's just talking to the machinery to see how they can optimize each other. To do that, you have to iterate, which is the main thing in entrepreneurship. Multiple iterations are needed between those two until they sort of aim at perfect accuracy, or like Six Sigma would say, Six Sigma accuracy. So fusing mechanical ability with software intelligence brings the world closer and closer to fully expanding the capacities of an industrial economy. Remember my first slide? Beyond the constraints of human labor. That ultimately is what's going to happen with robots. We've got 7 or 8 billion people on the planet now that can do a fixed amount of labor if everybody goes flat out. Well, we're about to blow right through those constraints of human labor because AI and robots are going to be able to work together to sort of build themselves, which sounds super weird, but Google me from 8 years ago. I actually think it's going to happen. And now that generative AI, of course, is when you create synthetic data to learn from, and the capacity to do that, and the rise of way more efficient foundation models like DeepSeek. Like DeepSeek, the reason it freaked everybody out was people were like, oh, we're going to have to build all these data centers and NVIDIA is going to be worth $1 trillion, until DeepSeek made a more efficient model. They essentially made like an MP3 rather than an album, like a CD. They burned it to an MP3 and could do it way more efficiently than others could do. So advancements in hardware like actuators have significantly reduced costs and increased the efficiency of robots. And this has unlocked things that we couldn't think of before, like AI has unlocked things that I couldn't think of before. It used to take me, I would have about a normal 8-hour day doing research. My normal day now is about 2 hours because of AI. So I've gotten really good at tennis in the meantime because I have time to get done the work that used to take me 8 hours to do. I know doctors that get their work done a lot quicker, especially radiologists and pathologists, because they're using AI. So it's going to be surprising, but don't be surprised what's going to happen in y'all's field. The end result of all this in y'all's industry and many industries will be that the nature of the relationship between labor, people and robots, and capital is about to irrevocably change. All right, and this is my sort of money slide. What happens when, due to, and this is on the left, due to robots and AI, the cost of labor trends down sharply because you're able to do it 10x, 20x times faster than you normally would, and surplus capital produced increases profoundly? What does that actually do to the world economy and the structural state of inequality? That's something people have not given enough thought to, and I think they should. And I think on that weird crypto-Marxian thought, it's time for y'all to go get a drink. Thank you very much for your time and attention.